So today I am decorating a cake with fresh flowers, and I figured I'd just go ahead and do a live demo. I've seen a lot of questions in cake groups lately about this subject, and I did recently do a blog post about it, and I thought I would go ahead and do a live and record it so that I can put that on my blog post as well, so you guys have a visual of the process that I go through to make flowers safe and make sure that you're picking safe flowers in the first place. So first I'm going to show you my my kit that I bring with me when I am going to set up a wedding cake, and often the fresh flowers are there at the wedding waiting for you. So you'll bring your undecorated cake to the wedding, and then you'll put the fresh flowers on the cake there. So I have put together a kit that I just grab with my cake, and it's all ready to go. And so I'll show you what I've got in my kit. So I have a nice case. It's easy to just grab and go. So this is basically what I got here. So you're going to need a really nice pair or sharp pair of pruning. I like the little size. I like hemostats for inserting the cake, the flowers into the cake. It is easy to grab the top of the straw and push them down into the cake with those. A pair of scissors. In this pocket I have some paper towels and some parchment paper that I lay out on the table first, so I'm not messing up their pretty tablecloth on their cake table. I also bring rubber gloves and floral tape and a little hand towel for drying the flower stems. Bring a bottle of bleach solution, and what this is, it's 1 teaspoon of bleach per quart of water, and that makes a sanitizing solution that you're going to dip your flower stems in to disinfect them. A variety of sizes of straws and toothpicks and some floral wire for the stems of the flowers. This is, I just made myself a little roll of it. It is Glad Press and Seal. So this is what this is. So you guys can see this Glad Press and Seal. And this is what I wrap the stems in to make sure that they aren't going to seep any of their fluids into the cake. So that seals the stems. And what else? Oh, and then this is my secret ingredient for sealing the flowers so that you're not getting any of their pesticides or chemical fertilizers that have been sprayed on them are not going to be touching the cake. So we're going to seal the flowers with this to make an edible surface for the flowers to be able to touch the cake. And so that's pretty much it on my kit. And so I just grab this when I'm ready to head out to the wedding. And this is actually a guide that I put together, and I do have it for sale in my blog and my shop. And what this is, when I first started decorating with fresh flowers, I had a really hard time determining which flowers were edible or even safe to use on the cake, because of course there are toxic flowers out there that you can't put anywhere near food. So I was always having a hard time figuring out when I got to the wedding which flowers are which. You know, the florist would hand me a bucket of flowers like this, and they're beautiful, but some of these flowers I have no idea what they are. And to be able to look them up on the internet to find out if they're safe to put on the cake, you actually have to know the names of these flowers, which of course I did not know all the names of these flowers. So what I've done is put together a guide, a full color guide of the flowers, so that while you're there at the wedding, you can determine which of these flowers are going to be safe to put on the cake. And this is my printed version, but it's actually a downloadable PDF that you can have on your phone. So you can just scroll through your phone and see, okay, well, this is a rose, so we know that's cool. I have no idea what this one is, so we're going to go into the guide. And it looks like it's a filler flower, so I'm going to look into the filler flower section of my guide. So I'm looking at these types of flowers. Let's see what we can find. actually a 26-page guide, so there are lots of flowers in here to look through. Okay, so I have found that flower. So that's the flower. And it's outlined in green. That means it's safe to use. Now, if you look through here, you'll see many flowers that are outlined in yellow. Baby's breath. Baby's breath is not safe to use on cake. Those are mildly toxic. I don't recommend putting them on cake. They can cause, mild stomach upset or skin irritation, that sort of thing. So anything that's outlined in yellow, I don't put on cake. There is the red. Never, ever, ever put those on cake. Those are very toxic. Those can severely hurt people. They can make you very sick, and they can also kill people. There is a section in the back that are deadly flowers. Those specifically don't ever get put near cake. I don't know if you all know it, but hydrangeas are not safe to put on cake. I see tons of people putting hydrangeas on cake. That's not good. What I do suggest, though, is if the couple's wedding flower contains some of these very toxic flowers, don't put them on the cake, but you can make a pretty table arrangement with them. You can put, a little wreath of them around the base of the cake pedestal. So it kind of incorporates those flowers, their wedding flowers, into the display, but they are not actually touching the cake. So once you've determined which flowers you can use, then I actually get a piece of parchment or some paper towels and lay that out on the table. So that protects their pretty tablecloth from any of the stuff that you're going to be working with. Okay, let me get set up. So you're going to need your clippers. You're going to need your Glade press and seal, Glad press and seal. At this point I usually put on my gloves. Anytime I'm handling any of my cakes or anything in public, for sure, I always put my gloves on. If you guys have any questions, feel free to chime in. You're being awfully quiet. So you're going to need your straws and your bleach solution. So I usually start by picking out my larger flowers that I'm going to use. So probably as center flowers, I'm going to use, those roses are probably two. So this is Sweet William. This is safe. This is actually in the carnation family. So I trim off some leaves. I also, if there are any large stamens or anything like that, I take those off. This is fine. But then I usually kind of shake and tap the flowers. So any of loose debris that is on that flower is gonna fall off. Any pollen, any like little loose leaves or anything on there. So they get a nice little tap. And then you're gonna insert the stem into your bleach solution. Just kind of give it a little shake. You're going to want to have that sit on there for at least 30 seconds. That's what is going to kill any bacteria or anything that is on that stem. So set that aside on your paper and just let that sit. And I usually do quite a few at a time. This is freesia. If you haven't seen freesia before, these smell so good. I love freesia. So just do a whole bunch of your flowers, dip the stems, and set them aside. Baby spray roses, those are so pretty. So I usually trim any of the lower leaves, so you don't want to have those wrapped up in all of your plastic and your floral wire. So trim it down a little bit. This process, I usually allow myself a half hour to 45 minutes at the wedding to accomplish this. Unless it's a really large cake that's going to get a lot of flowers, then definitely give yourself some more time. It's a process, and it takes a little while to get the little arrangements together that you're going to want to do, and to treat these flowers properly to be able to safely put them on a cake. This one is not going to get a huge amount of flowers. I'm probably going to do 3 or 4 small bundles. I'll do one center arrangement and then probably one smaller one off the side. Look at these beautiful little baby roses. I'm cutting my stems about 2 to 3 inches, 2 inches usually, about 2 inches long from the bottom of the flower. How is everybody today? Where are you guys from? Say something. Keep me company while I work. Hopefully you guys can actually see this. I mean, it says I'm connected, but I'm not hearing or seeing anybody in here, so I'll just keep going. I'm gonna do another Sweet William. These are so pretty. Her wedding colors are burgundy and pale pink and white. It's a pretty combination. Okay, let's do one more freesia and then we'll do some bundles and see how that goes. Okay, so now that we've got our stems dipped in the bleach solution, you want to go ahead and dry them off a little bit before you start wrapping your bundles. So I just use a little hand towel and dry the stems off. At this point they're pretty well disinfected. The 1 teaspoon of bleach per quart of water is the legal food safety standard for disinfecting surfaces in a restaurant. Okay, so now I'm going to make small bundles out of these flowers, and you don't want your bundles to be too large, especially if you're going to be inserting anywhere on the side of the cake, because if they get too heavy they can pull through the cake and fall and tear your cake. Hi Abby. Thanks for saying something. I didn't know if anybody was in here with me, could see me. Okay, so we are going to make small bundles out of these flowers. First to use the floral tape to tape them together. I've heard conflicting things about the floral tape, whether it is actually food safe to wrap a stem and just stick it straight into the cake with just the floral tape. I don't do that because it's not necessarily going to hold in any of the fluids that are going to come out of these flower stems, and you don't want that seeping into your cake. So I go a bit beyond that, and I'll show you what I do to make sure that doesn't happen. Hi Angel and Margaret, hello, thanks for joining. Thanks for saying something. It's nice to know I've got some people in here now. Okay, so I usually start with my larger flowers in the center, and then bring a few other smaller ones in around it to make a little pleasing arrangement. Usually no more than about 5 at a time, and then I'll stick those bundles in together. So something along these lines. That's about as big as I usually go. So then you're going to wrap those stems together, tape them together. I like to trim the ends the same length as well. So wrap those nice, and then I use the Glad Press and Seal. I hope I can show you this without having to set it down. I take a piece And if you've ever used this, you know that there's like one side that's sticky. It sticks to itself. So we're going to put that side up. And I lay my stems halfway, and then I fold it up. So what this is doing is it's creating a seal on the bottom of the stem, so nothing can leak out now. Like you've created a nice little pouch, and then roll it together. And this sticks to itself, so it makes it really easy. Okay, so now you have a nice little bundle, and you can set that aside and do a few more little bundles. I'm going to do some of these pretty little roses in there. Isn't that pretty? And the freesia smells so good. Okay. So what I'm aiming for is in making these little bundles is that when you put them together, they look really nice. Now we're going to go back in and add a few afterwards to fill in, and I'll show you how to do that. See right now, that's a really nice little posy for the cake. I'm going to do one more with some fillers on the side. I need some more of this. I'm always holding it up to another bundle and checking to make sure that the shape of the flowers are going to fit together nicely. So this is an awkward one. It's not going to fit where I want it. So I'll get another one. Yeah, that's going to be better. Hi, Tammy. Okay. I like the way that looks. Yeah, that's going to work. So you can see that it does take a little bit of time to do this. I'm actually really lucky that I have only about 3 florists in my local area that do weddings, and I'm friends with all of them, so I am able to get my flowers the day before the wedding. So I actually don't normally have to do this at the wedding. I can decorate my cake, and then in the morning I get up and I'm able to do my flowers in my studio and deliver the cake fully ready to display. But that's not normally an option for people, I don't think. So it's nice to be able to be set up and ready to do that right at the wedding. So, okay, so now I have all my little bundles. What I'm gonna do next is spray these bundles with my edible spray glaze. So what this does is it creates a food-safe surface on the back of your bundles. Anywhere that these flowers are going to be touching the cake is going to be sealed with a food-safe edible glaze. And it seals in all the pesticides and anything that you don't want on this cake. So just hold it down low over your paper and, oops, this is clogged. And give it a generous spray on the backs of these flowers. Can you see what I'm doing? You know, pay special attention to the lower flowers that are definitely going to be touching the cake. So, and it's clear, you can't see it. It's going to dry in about a minute and it'll be ready to put on the cake. So this is just an idea that I had come up with after I had used wax paper on the tops of my cakes to try and keep the flowers from touching the cake, and you always see the piece of wax paper through the flowers, and it was just never like as clean and pretty as I wanted it to be. So I thought there's got to be something we can put on the backs of these flowers, and that's when I thought of the edible spray glaze. I had used it on isomalt pieces, and I know that it seals them completely, so it was a perfect solution for these flowers. So now that we have the backs sprayed and they're dry, it takes about a minute or two for them to dry, then we're going to insert these stem bundles into straws. The name of the spray, yes, it's a PME, clear edible glaze spray. I think I ordered this one off of Amazon, but I know I've gotten it from Global Sugar Art before. And then there's also, I think Evil Cake Genius sells, what's it called? Shell and Shine, I think. So you can get that there. In my blog post, I'll go ahead, when I'm done here, I will link to my blog post, and it has links for all of this stuff, the edible spray glaze, the different tools that I use. So that might be helpful. So now that we've got our bundles together, what we're going to do is look for a straw that the bundle fits snugly into. And you want it to fit snugly because once you insert this into the cake, when they're going to cut the cake and they're going to pull these flowers out, you want the straw to come with it. You don't want the straw to stay in the cake. So you've got to make sure that the stem kind of really, you have to force it down into this straw so it's nice and tight. So mine's not. So what I'm going to do is add another piece of the Glad Press and Seal, just to bulk up that straw a little bit, or bulk up the bundle, flower bundle a little bit, so it'll be more snug in the straw. You can also use the floral tape for this as well. And this is why it's really nice to have 3 or 4 different sizes of straws. Okay, so now I'm pretty snug, and I'm just going to cut the straw at a nice angle. This gives a nice sharp point to help poke into the cake and make it a little easier to insert it in the cake. So this is a thinner bundle, so it's going to fit into my smaller straw. So I'll push it on there and make sure that it's nice and snug. This is a thick one, and I have not put my plastic on that one. Okay, that's nice and snug. Cut at an angle. You know, always keeping in mind the height of your tier height, so so that you know that you're going to be able to insert this in far enough into the cake. That's why I usually cut it about 2 inches, and then the straw extends a little bit farther down, so you're ending up with 2 to 3 inches that you're going to be inserting into the cake. So let me pull my cake over. Okay, just making some room. Make sure you guys can see this. Okay, so I determined the front of my cake. Okay. And then I'm gonna start with my center bundle. And I like to use my long nose hemostats, but you can use like a pair of tweezers or long nose pliers. And I grab it at the top of the straw. That gives me some good leverage to be able to insert into the cake, especially without like touching the cake and messing up the design. So I determine which direction I want them to face. I tend to, instead of going straight down with the straw, I tend to go in at a little angle. That angles the flowers out to the viewer of the cake instead of being straight up and down where you would really have to look down on the flowers to see them. So angling it slightly in towards the center. And this makes it easy to grab the stems and continue to push down into the cake as far as you need to. There's that one. I'm going to put another one. With the freesias pointing out on this one. There's that. There we go. Okay, so I have a spot on this side that I feel like is a little sparse and I want a little more color in. So I'm going to take another flower. Let's do another one of these. Yeah, I'm going to do this one. I'm just going to do this as a single and treat it like I did before. Wrap the stem in the plastic. Since I'm not bundling any flowers, I don't need the floral tape. I'm just going to go straight to the plastic. Sealing the stem so that none of its fluids will leak into the cake. Alright, choosing a straw. Nope, it's too big for that one. Go to the next size. There we go. Cut it at an angle. Oh, and this one didn't get the spray on it, so I'm going to spray it. And if you are in a hurry and you have to put these on the cake quickly before the spray has a lot of time to dry, it's okay, it's an edible glaze. But I do like to try and dry it first. Okay, that filled it out much nicer. I like that. So if you want, you can also go in and fill in with little pieces of the flowers that don't even actually stick into the cake. You're going to want to treat them basically the same way, a little bit of plastic so they don't leak, and the glaze spray, so that way they're still safe to touch the cake, but they're not actually going to be sticking into the cake. And you want to do that sometimes just to get a pretty little overlap, overhang. Sometimes you want some of that in there. Hi, Margaret. Thank you. Okay. My roll's not working. So I'm just going to do a couple of little pieces on the side now. Oh, it's so sticky. Sealing the end of the stem. Okay, so I want this one. There. Okay, so I like that. I'm going to do another piece on here. Sometimes it's easier to use ones with shorter stems for this part. It's a little tricky to wrap them in the plastic, but sometimes they're easier to insert into the into the bundle of flowers like that. I feel like I need something right here. Let's see what I've got. Oh, I got a pretty freesia that's going to fit nice right there. A little more plastic. It's a process. It takes a while to get them all in there. So that's why it's really good to give yourself plenty of time when you're at the wedding, so you're not stressing out about trying to do it quick. This is where it can get tricky, getting these to sit in there where you want them to be. Okay, I like that. There, that's better. Sometimes you can turn a bundle a little bit to get a better angle on a flower. So that's the front of my cake. I'm going to do a little bundle on the side right here. So I'm going to probably do this little spray of pink roses and a piece of freesia and a little more of the, I think this is called limonium. So my side bundles usually aren't as big, so I'm gonna do that for the side. That might even be too big. I think I might cut that down a little bit. Hi, Kelsey. Okay, I like these to stick up off the side a little bit. I'm going to give it a little dimension coming up the side of the cake and then sometimes draping down the cake as well. So I might do the freesias kind of coming down like this. So I'm not going to bundle these in with the first flowers that are going to stick into the cake. I'm going to stick these off the side. I might even stick them in sideways. So we're going to start with these two, like that. Let's dry them off. I feel like this flower is in my way, so I'm just going to take that one off. Wrap these together, and it's a little long too, so we're going to take that off. Now the plastic, Glad Press and Seal. Seals the bottom of the stem. Sorry if I'm repeating myself. I know there's probably new people in. Hi, Cindy. Yes, real flowers, fresh flowers. I'm showing you guys how to select flowers and prepare them to put on the cake so that they're safe. They're not going to contaminate the cake. You're picking flowers that are not toxic, and you're cleaning and preparing them properly so that you can put them on a cake. So I like the way that's going to look on the side here. I'm going to go ahead and spray it and let it dry. And then I'm going to prepare the freesia that I want draping down. So it's a single, I just need the plastic on it. Let's give it a spray too. This one's going to need a small straw. Perfect. Now this one's getting a straw. Mainly what the straw does is it strengthens the bundle, so it's easier to push into the cake without bending the stems. And of course it's another layer of protection, food safe protection from the stems between the cake. So let's make sure I'm facing front the way I want. Yep. Okay, so there's my front, right there. I like that. Now I'm going to have these coming down the side, so what I'm going to do with this is stick it into the side of the top tier. I like that, but I want to fill in this spot right here. See, it looks good like that. Then when you look at it from this angle, it's got a big open spot. So we're going to add another flower right there. Maybe we'll do a smaller Sweet William right there. Dipping in the bleach solution, giving that a minute. I also think I'm going to put this little pink one on that I've already cleaned. Ignore the phone. Hold on.
Hello, you've reached Jamie's Sweet Creation. Please leave a message.
Okay, sorry. I'm back. I'm just getting this little rose prepared. I'm going to stick it on the side of this bundle over here. Now we've already sprayed this one when we sprayed the bunch that I took it off of. But yeah, I knew they'd call back. Okay. All right. So what do you think? I think I'm going to call it done. Oh, no, wait. I'm going to put the Sweet William on. That's what I was in the middle of. Yeah, we're going to ignore this again.
I will get back to you as soon as I can.
Okay, so
please let me know the date of your occasion.
This is the last flower.
I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you. Have a sweet day.
Let's see what you guys have to say here.
Jamie, it's Vanna, and Kim Carlisle just called me and said Rosa just delivered flowers to the hotel, but she's panicking because she said she doesn't see any cake flowers. So I'm wondering if Rosa already delivered those.
She's talking about this cake I'm doing right now. Now that's much better, don't you think? How's that?
And let me know if I'm not here.
All right, so you can feel really confident that your flowers are food safe at this point. We've cleaned and prepared them in the safest way I can think of to prepare fresh flowers that are conventional, because of course conventional flowers are grown with tons of pesticides and chemicals, so you want to make sure that you are preparing your flowers correctly before you put them on your edible cake. You don't want to make anybody sick. And we know that we've picked safe flowers because we've gone through the guide, and even if you don't use my guide, There are tons of links that you can find on Google about the lists of flowers that are safe and toxic. You know, the tricky part is identifying which flowers you have in your bucket at that time to know which ones are going to be safe to use. So that's why the guide is really helpful. And the guide also has a list of the tools and the whole process that I just went through, so you can refresh yourself on the whole process. But I feel very confident that I've made a very food safe cake with these fresh flowers. So I hope that's super helpful for you guys, and if you have any questions, let me know. Cool. Okay, well, feel free to post any questions on my page. I'm going to post a link to my blog post in the thread here as soon as I get off, so you guys can check that out. It goes through the whole process as well. I'm going to post this video on there now so you can go back and watch the process and see it actually done. And so there you go. Thank you guys for joining me, and have a sweet day.